Hello students, we are starting with a new chapter, Reproduction in the Flowering Plants. In this chapter, we will be talking about the sexual reproduction only, as we have discussed the various types of asexual reproduction in the previous lecture. In plants, especially the flowering plants if we talk about, then we are going to talk about the angiosperms. In angiosperms, or the flowering plants, the organ that helps in sexual reproduction is the flower. Parts of the flower you have already studied in your previous classes. Here we are going to take a brief look on the various parts of the flower quickly. The first part of the flower is the receptacle or thalamus. It is a swollen base where all the floral parts are arranged. In this diagram, we will be going from inside to out. That means first we will be talking about the pistil or the gynoecium, then androecium, then petals, and then the sepals. So the first part is the pistil. The first part of the pistil is stigma. Stigma is a knob-like structure which receives the pollen grain. The second part is the style. Style is a slender thread-like structure that connects your stigma to your ovary. Ovary consists of the ovule and these ovule consists of the female gamete. Stigma, style and ovary together forms the pistil. Now if we talk about the male part of the flower, the first swollen part of the androecium or stamen is the anther. Anther is connected to the flower with the help of a thin slender part which is called as the filament. Anther and filament together forms the stamen. The next part is the petal. Petal is the most attractive part of the flower. Petal plays a crucial role in pollination. It attracts the insects. The next part is the sepal. Sepal protects the flower when it is in the form of a bud. Right? Stigma, style and ovary together form pistil. And the combination of pistils is called as gynoecium. In the same way, anther and the filament together are called as stamen, and stamens together form androecium. The collection of the petals is called as corolla and the collection of sepal is called as calyx. Right? So collection of pistil, gynoecium, collection of stamen, androecium, collection of petals, corolla and the collection of sepals, calyx. Now we all know that flower is a modified stem. And what was the basic characteristic of a stem? Stem has presence of nodes and internodes. So suppose we going to take the apical part of the stem. That stem has presence of the node, and the topmost portion of that stem is the apical meristem where gynoecium is present. And on the other nodes, the other floral parts are arranged like your androecium, petals and sepals. Suppose if this entire structure gets compressed, what will happen? All the floral whorl, they are going to come at the same level. This is how the flower is formed. It is a modified compressed stem. Right? So in flower, as we have discussed before, these are the parts: gynoecium, androecium, petals and sepals. Out of all these four whorls, calyx and corolla, they are the accessory whorls. Why are they called as accessory whorls? Because they do not play a role in reproduction. Instead, calyx protects your flower in the bud stage and corolla is going to attract the insect for the process of pollination. The two parts that play a role in reproduction is androecium and gynoecium. So androecium and gynoecium forms the essential whorls of the flower. Now first we will be discussing about stamen. Since in this chapter we are going to discuss about androecium and gynoecium only. So in androecium, the first structure that forms androecium is stamen. Stamen is formed by two parts, anther and filament. Anther is a swollen knob-like structure and filament is a thread-like structure. Anther and filament, they are connected to the thalamus, right? And the point of attachment of the filament to thalamus is called as the proximal end. Proximal means nearer and distal means farther. So the farther point where filament is attached to the anther, it is called as the distal end, and the part which is attached to the thalamus, it is called as the proximal end. Your anther is of two types, monothecous and dithecous. Monothecous if it consists of only one lobe or one theca. Dithecous if anther consists of two lobes or two theca. In this picture, you are seeing a dithecous anther since two theca or two lobes are present. And these two lobes, it is connected with the help of a sterile tissue which is called as connective. It is called as sterile tissue because it does not play role in reproduction. Most of the flowers, they are dithecous, right? Only the members of Malvaceae family, they consist of monothecous anther. Now anthers, they are of various types depending on the fixation of anther to the filament. The first one is the basifixed anther. Basifixed anther is an anther when anther is attached from its base to the filament. The second is the versatile anther. An anther whose attachment is middle so that it can swing freely. It is called as a versatile anther. In this picture you can see that anther is dangling. Right? So this type of anther is present in all those plants where the pollination is through the winds so that the pollen grains can be carried easily. The third one is called as a divergent anther. In divergent anther, both theca, and what is the theca? Theca is the lobe. In all these pictures, you will see the anther with two lobes or two theca. In divergent anther, both theca are forming an acute angle with the filament. Here, the connective is enlarged. The next one is the adnate anther. Here, the connective is all round the length of the anther lobe. Next one is the dorsifixed. In dorsifixed anther, the anther is attached at the dorsal side to the filament. Right? The filament's attachment to the anther is on its dorsal side. The next one is the distractile anther. When two anther lobes are far apart, it is called as the distractile anther. Now if we consider the structure of the anther, if you see over here, if we going to magnify this part of the anther, what are we going to see? We will see four sac-like structure inside the anther. This sac-like structure, if we see inside the anther, has two lobes, lobe 1 and lobe 2. Lobe 1 is the first theca and lobe 2 is the second theca. And both these theca or lobes, they are separated by the connective, which is the sterile tissue. Now each lobe will have presence of the microsporangia. One lobe has presence of two microsporangium. So all in all, inside an anther sac, there are 4 microsporangiums. We'll be discussing the structure of anther in detail in the next lecture.